All right. So we'll be recording all our live sessions. We'll be meeting on every Saturday and Sunday around the same time, and each session will be around 1.5 to 2 hours in duration based on what all topics that we are discussing, right? So what all we're gonna cover in Selenium is we'll be covering the Selenium basics with basic Java concepts as well, right? We'll be taking up some basic part of Java examples within the Selenium examples itself. Then we'll be covering all advanced level WebDriver topics, right? We'll be covering some of the framework designing using TestNG Java framework, right? We'll be working on TestNG in depth. Then we'll be using a couple of reports that are very important for when we work on test suits, when we create test suits or test cases, right? So we'll be creating some reports using extent reports. We'll be using report ng. We'll be using some test ng internal reports, right? So we'll be looking at a couple of interactive reporting. So we will be customizing these reports as well. Now, this is one of the important tasks, to customize the report, to add your own screenshots to the report, to add your own customized messages, logs, right? The way you want to see the output on the report. So you can customize these reports as well. Then we'll be using some build tools like Maven. Build tools, there are many build tools in the market, like Ant is there, Maven is there, Gradle is there, right? So we'll be working on Maven as majorly market as using Maven itself, and Maven is way better than Ant. Gradle is like it's a wrapper over Maven itself, right? These days, many companies are using Gradle as well. So we're gonna get started with Maven first, and then we're gonna see what all things, other things also can be integrated as a build tool, right? Then we'll be working on the CI part using Jenkins, that is continuous integration using Jenkins, and then we'll be designing two frameworks from scratch. One is data-driven, and one is page object model, which is one of the hybrid frameworks. So we'll be working on two live projects using end-to-end framework designing, and we'll see complete automation of website. We'll be handling a website up to that level that any complex element we should be able to handle easily, right? And I mean, be it any website, you guys should be able to automate it easily. That is what sort of techniques we're gonna learn. So majorly locators, you must have heard about something called as XPath and CSS. We will be working on both of them in very depth. And then some of the sync issues, like some of the wait techniques using implicit, explicit wait. So what are these? Once we start with the course, if you have never heard about these terms, then once we start with our WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver, these things will be very much in use once we start writing our test cases, right? So these are the things, and along with this, we will be using many utilities for sending automated emails, generating logs using Log4j, then JDBC connectivity, connecting to database and fetching the records from the database and validating it from the website. And then we'll be using some utilities for, let's say, what all things are there. Mail is there, Log4j is there, JDBC is there, yes, something called as properties. Right. So these are some of the utilities that we'll be using. We'll be using the Excel reading stuff as well. Yeah. So these are the topics that we're going to cover in around 6 weekends of our sessions, somewhere around 11 to 12 sessions of 1.5 to 2 hours each. Right. So Today is actually the first day of the training, so we'll be starting with some automation basic concepts, and we will be understanding what exactly Selenium is and how it came into the market and what all things that will going to work on Selenium, right? What are components that a market is actually working on Selenium. So these are the things that we will be looking at today, and we'll also going to look the prerequisite to get started with Selenium, what all installation or configuration that is required to work on Selenium. And then we're going to see the very first test using WebDriver. So these are the things that we will be covering in our today's session, right? So first three sessions, how we're going to work is that first three sessions, we will going to keep it only on Saturdays, right? Because uh, when we are working on Selenium, Selenium is not like a tool. It is not a tool where you're going to see the GUI part where you'll be doing record and play or drag and drop, something like that. It is not a tool. It is purely Java that we will be using, purely the coding part that we will be working on Selenium, right? So initial three sessions will be the basic sessions in which we will be doing some logic building exercises, right? So initial three sessions, you will be like developing these things on your own. You will be doing some assignments as well. And then after the three session, we're going to pick up a very good pace, and we'll be starting with some utility concepts, some framework designing concepts, some advanced concepts. So then we're going to have sessions on both Saturdays and Sunday. It's just for the first 3 weeks, we're going to have it on Saturdays only. Right, so in total, there will be around 11 to 12 sessions. All right. So this is about the entire training program. I believe if you guys have any doubts or any questions at the moment, you can unmute yourself as well and you can directly talk to me. I really want these sessions to be interactive. So if in case in between the session as well, if you have any doubts, any queries, you can unmute yourself there and then and you can ask the questions from me. You have a chat option as well available. If in case you don't want to talk, you can simply type your questions on the chat box, and then I'm gonna respond to you accordingly. Right, and I also want that you guys can add me on my Skype ID, that is Selenium Coaching. In case of any doubts, any queries, you can even ping me on Skype, or you can mail me your queries directly on trainer@waytoautomation.com. Right. So if you guys have any queries, you can ask it right now before we get started with the training. Anything that you want to discuss?
Yeah, hi Raman. It's Pawan here.
Yes, Pawan.
Yeah, just I've gone through a few of your tutorials. Obviously, it looks quite good. I mean, you have a detailed explanation and all that. I don't have any kind of coding experience, to be honest. So basically, I've looked at some coding basic concepts, and it looks quite scary to me, to be honest. So I was wondering, is there any way that I know it's all practice and all that, but is there any way you could simplify even more in terms of the coding bit, if that's possible, please?
Okay, so this is one of the prerequisites of to attend this training program is that you need to first go through the core Java library that I have provided. So that contains the very basic concepts of programming. In order to work on Selenium, there is no advanced Java that we will be working on. It's only the very, very basic concepts like basic if, else, loops, arrays, basic oops concept, right? So these are the things that is common to any programming language that you may have worked on. If you have ever worked on C++ or basic Java, then you must have studied about these things. Probably if you have not implemented it, maybe you are coming from a testing background. And testing, we generally don't develop things, so we generally don't often use these things as a tester. We never do any programming, so we forget all these concepts. But these are the very basic thing that is required to work on Selenium. So I would recommend if any one of you are not at all familiar with any programming language, I would request you to first go through the Java concepts, build up your Java concepts, and like those things are already covered in the video tutorials that I've provided to you. Just go through them. You have lifetime access to these online training program, so you can join this batch any point of time you want, right? You can still continue with the batch and try to understand some of the topic. I'll try to make it clear, like once we start writing the code, I'll try to cover the basic concepts of Java as well within this example, right? But still, for a thorough understanding of core Java, I would request you to go through the core Java videos, and then you can continue with the training program.
Okay. Thanks, Raman. I mean, would you be, when you kind of, as you go along, would you be giving us some more examples of how you can relate these to kind of a real-time projects and stuff? Because obviously
Absolutely.
theory is all good, but obviously as long as we kind of implement it to a real-time experience, I'm
Mhm,
sure you have loads of tons of experience. So if you
mhm.
probably could relate it to your real-time projects and how you could handle it with these kind of situations, that would be quite beneficial to us, I believe.
Exactly, Pawan. I mean, if we talk about the theory part, so theory that we're gonna cover is for the very first session, that is for the today's session only, because in order to make you understand what exactly is Selenium and how we're gonna work on Selenium, so I need to cover the brief history of the Selenium. But after today's session, there will be no theory. It will be completely practical, completely coding part because there's no theory on Selenium. It's purely Java that we'll be working on. So I'll be
Oh,
taking up lots and lots of practical examples and practical exercises as well that I'm going to provide it to you. So that is how we'll be taking it further.
yeah, great. Sorry, Raman, I just got a couple more and then I'll be done, if that's okay. With the, would you be giving us any kind of examples of any functional and technical specs for these automation projects, obviously, for especially in Selenium?
Uh, like you're talking about the documentation part, like how to write like the automation test cases or that sort of thing. I'm
Yeah,
really
I
not
mean,
sure.
so the reason I asked that is basically I lead a team of manual testers. So
Mhm,
obviously it's quite straightforward with technical specs and stuff. You
mhm,
just follow the spec and then you know what to kind of expect. And then with manual
mhm,
testing, it's just straightforward. Like if it doesn't fit the um, technical or functional spec, then obviously it's a fail, and then you log it and all that kind of stuff. With a
mhm,
similar way with the automation projects, would you just give us like an overview when we get there, as to how we go about how you see as a how does the automation project before it gets to the testing team, how does it look
mhm.
like, and then just a brief overview if that's all right.
Sure, sure. So we're going to do that once we start up on a live project using the framework designing. I'm going to let you know how test cases, test suites, all these things are designed. How we're going to validate the things. These all things we'll be working on once we start writing our test cases.
That's great. Thanks, Raman. I'm done.
All right, sure. Okay, Murli, you said, is there any limitation on Windows OS? You're using Windows 10. Oh, I'm also on Windows 10, so there's no limitation. So Selenium will gonna work on it. Anything that supports Java, Selenium will gonna work on it, right? And there's some more thing that we're gonna cover at the end of the session. I will be taking you through the Appium part as well. So Appium, as in, we'll be seeing how to perform testing on a real mobile device. The same test that we will be executing on web pages, we can execute the same test on a real device as well. And for that, we will be covering the entire installation of Appium. So Appium is like a wrapper over your WebDriver API. So if in case you have a very good understanding of WebDriver, you can easily work on Appium. The only challenging part in Appium is the installation and the configuration of Appium. So that I'm going to cover in depth, right? Okay, I can see Paridhi is raising the
It is
hand.
asking here.
Mhm. Yeah, Arti.
Raman, is Selenium used only for the desktop-based applications or it's for the web applications or and one more thing is, do we have any add-ons for Selenium like how we have for QTP so that we can use it for the Oracle-based products like ERP products? How is it used? This
Mhm.
is only for web or
Okay,
desktop.
yeah, Selenium is majorly for web-based applications. Selenium is designed for web-based automation only. But there are things that can be integrated with Selenium to handle other parts like the database part, like the desktop part, like you can integrate some web services as well. API testing can be integrated with Selenium, although it's not a part of Selenium. But these things, anything that is feasible in Java, all these things can be integrated with Selenium. That is how it is designed. Because it's not like a tool. See, if you talk about QTP, QTP is a tool. So QTP has got some boundaries. Boundaries as in whatever developers that have who have actually designed QTP, what all features that they have added to QTP, you can use those features only, right? If there is a particular test case that you want to automate, and if a feature is not available in QTP, then you might go to HP and you'll ask for an add-on, right? So if they have add-on, you can still use that feature. If they don't have add-on, then you are again restricted. I mean, you cannot automate that functionality because it's a tool. Always always has some boundaries, right? If we talk about Selenium, Selenium is not a tool. Selenium is just a framework, an API. There is no boundary of Selenium, right? Anything that is feasible in any programming language, if we are talking about Selenium specific to Java, anything that is feasible in Java, you can achieve that thing with Selenium. That is how powerful this tool is, this API is.
Okay. Okay, Raman, makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
All right. Sure. Uh, yes, Noor, I will be covering most of these topics, but like it's really difficult to cover everything in 12 days. So these topics are already covered in the video tutorials. So like Cucumber, you just talk about all these things. I've already given you access to the videos. All these things are already there in depth, right? So videos are over 150 hours. And if we practically talk about the live sessions, these are somewhere around 24 hours, right? So in 24 hours, my main focus is to get you started with Selenium, get you started on a live project, get you started on how you can design a framework, how you can integrate other tools with Selenium, and how we will be designing our test cases that you can automate any website on your own. So this is what I mean. We'll be covering in these sessions, so that if you know, if you thoroughly work on all these things, whatever being taught in the training, then rest videos you should be able to pick it up very easily, right? All right, all right. So any more questions, guys, before we get started? Yes, Paridi. Yeah, you can unmute yourself if you want to talk, or you can type it on a chat box. Uh, Paridhi, are you like typing? Because I cannot hear anything from you. All right, maybe you can type and I'll, okay. Is Selenium used to automate only website? Yes, Selenium is only for web-based testing. Right, so as I said, there are other things can be integrated with Selenium to handle desktop, mobile part, and other things as well. But Selenium was intentionally designed for web-based testing only. Right. So let's just get started with what exactly Selenium is, and all your doubts will be very much clear after this session, that how we're going to use Selenium in our real-time automation project, right? So let's get started. Before we get started, the very first thing that I generally ask is, what exactly is Selenium, right? So Selenium, this is a question to everyone, but I really cannot unmute you and ask you answer at the moment. But what answer that generally I get when I ask this question is that Selenium, it's an open source automation tool for web-based testing, right? This is mostly 90% of the time I get an answer that Selenium is an open source automation tool for web-based testing. Open source means that there is no license required to work on Selenium, right? It's completely free of cost, no license. It means anyone can contribute. Open source means that anyone can contribute in the development of this tool or in the testing of this tool, right? So again, if we talk about tool, Selenium is not a tool. You're not going to see any GUI application. You will not be installing anything, like in the case of QTP, RFT, or UFT, or any other automation tool that you may have worked on, where you get a complete platform where you do record and play, where you write some scripts. It's nothing like that with Selenium. It is not a tool. You cannot install Selenium. If Selenium is not a tool, then what exactly is Selenium? It is basically an API. It's a framework, right? Now, API, if we talk about the term API, what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. That's a full form of API. Now, what is inside Application Programming Interface? It's a complete project developed in any programming language. It could be developed in Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, any language. You'll find APIs in almost every language, right? API contains your entire library, entire coding part, collection of different classes, collection of functions within the classes, interfaces. A complete library, a complete project is what an API is. So Selenium is a combination of all these things. Selenium has got different classes, different functions, different interfaces. It's a complete library, a complete project developed in many languages. So Selenium is supported in different languages. So it has got multiple language support. Right. Selenium is available in Java. It's available in C Sharp. It's available in Python. It's available in Ruby. It's available in PHP. It's available in JavaScript. So these many languages it supports Selenium. But again, it doesn't mean that if my website is built up in Java, I'm learning Java to automate it. If it is built up in C Sharp, I'll now learn C Sharp to automate it. It doesn't mean that. Selenium is not going to interact with any of these languages of your website. Maybe your website is built up in PHP, or maybe it is built up using jQuery, JavaScript, Angular. Selenium has nothing to do with it, right? Selenium will be interacting just with the HTML part of your website, right? And similarly, there is a multiple language support. It supports multiple browser as well. Since it's majorly used for web-based testing, so you can perform testing on Firefox, on Chrome, on IE, on Safari, on Opera. All major browsers are supported. And the best part is that it supports all major operating systems. Like if we talk about QTP, which languages QTP supports? So this is a question. Which language QTP supports? We know that QTP is the biggest competitor of Selenium, or vice versa. Which language QTP supports? Okay, I got an answer. VB. VB as in VB script, right? So if we talk about VB script, which operating system VB script supports? Windows, exactly. So VB script mostly works on Windows. So if you are talking about QTP, it means that when we are writing VB script in QTP, we can execute that script only on Windows. So QTP is majorly for Windows, right? But these days, if we talk about current market, there are n number of users who are working on a MacBook. There are n number of users who are working on Linux machines, right? Whereas if we are working on QTP, we can only execute our test on Windows. But client wants that his product should work fine on all major operating system, whereas QTP is just restricted to Windows, right? It's true that QTP is for desktop-based application as well. QTP perform testing on both desktop and Windows-based application. Then why Selenium is more in demand? Why not QTP? One of the reason is open source, but that is not the only reason. It's true that the license of QTP is very expensive as compared to any other automation tool in the market. Whereas the same functionality Selenium is providing free of cost. Just that Selenium does not support desktop-based testing. But if we talk about current market, 75% of the applications are web-based. They are accessed through a URL because it's a time of cloud computing. So majorly applications you're gonna see are the web-based applications, right? And similarly, if we talk about platform independent, then we have just seen that all these languages are supported by Selenium. So let's assume that you are writing your Selenium test in Java. If we talk specifically about Java, if you have ever installed Java, the very first message you're gonna get is 3 billion devices supports Java. So be it Linux, be it Mac, be it Solaris, be it Windows, be it iOS, be it Android, all major operating systems supports Java. So if you write your Selenium code in Java, you can execute that code in any operating system that you want. And that too completely open source because Java is also open source, right? So this is one of the best reason to use Selenium, that it's completely open source, and it supports all major languages, not just the scripting language, but the purely object-oriented languages, that is Java and C Sharp, out of which Java is one of the most powerful and open source language. Right, and you'll find 75% of the market is using Selenium with Java itself. Then there is a demand of Selenium with C Sharp as well, with Python as well, with Ruby as well, with different languages as well. But Java is most widely used. Even if you Google around for queries, you will find that maximum answers or maximum questions are answered in Java itself as compared to other languages, right? So these are the things which are supported by Selenium. Now we were talking about an API. API contains all these things, right? So let's just take a practical example. Let's say I'm a Java developer, right? So I believe this example you must have seen if you have gone through my videos. So I generally take the same example. So let's say I'm a Java developer and I work with some XYZ.com organization, and I got a task to design a calculator. Now in a calculator there are various operations available. I can add something, I can subtract something, I can multiply something, I can divide something, and so on. Right. Now, in order to develop a calculator, in order to design a calculator as a Java developer, what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a class with the name as calculator. Right. Now, I believe everyone must be knowing what a class is. Right. If you have gone through some of the basic Java tutorials, you must be knowing what exactly a class is. If you're not familiar with it, just follow the today's session as it is. Just try to understand the concept because we are not starting with in depth of coding today. So just try to understand the concept today. Just take the session very lightly, right? And during this week, just cover your Java concepts, and then you should be very much comfortable with these things, right? So let's say I've created a class as calculator. Now, in a calculator, there are various operations available. All these operations I'll be designing in a form of functions. Let's say I'll be creating a function with a name add. And in this function, I'm going to write some code which will going to add some numbers. Right. Similarly, I'll create a function called as subtract, a function called as divide, a function called as multiply. If we are working in Java, we don't call these things as function. We call them as methods. A class contains n number of methods, right? And inside each method, I'll be writing some code which will gonna, if I call the subtraction method, it will gonna subtract some numbers. Right? If a division, if we call a division method, it will gonna divide some number. If multiply, it will gonna multiply some numbers, right? Now let's suppose I have created all these methods, and now I want to call the addition method. How to call addition method from this class? How to call a method from this class? So who will tell me? A very basic Java programming or a very basic programming concept. How to call a method from a class? So guys, this is a question to everyone. How to call a method from a class?
You create an object for the class and you call it in the main function.
Okay, we create an object and we call it in a main function. So how to create an object of a class? What is the syntax?
Class, you create an reference variable.
Mm-hmm. So what name should
Equal
I
to
give?
C or calc, anything.
Okay,
Equal to new, the class name with
new
the
class name.
parentheses.
Okay, and how to call a method?
With the reference variable calc dot this add, subtract.
Add, okay, and then calc dot subtract and so on. Right, this is how we call it. Exactly. So if I talk about this statement, what is an object inside this statement? Again, a question to everyone. Sorry, what? I didn't get that.
The object is the calculator. The reference variable is the CALC.
Okay, this is the reference variable, and this is an object.
This is, I mean, the new calculator is the object.
New calculator is an object.
So
Okay.
parenthesis, the calculator is the object, the calc is the reference variable.
Calc is a reference variable. Okay, that's great. So yeah, that is what I was expecting, because I've seen a lot of time people they say that calc is an object. This is not an object. This is just a reference variable. This is holding the address of your object, and an object is always created whenever you say new calculator, right? And this is a type. Now, what the statement is, we will be discussing it practically itself. Right now, I've written the code in a Notepad. This is how in previous time we used to write Java code in Notepad, but time has changed. There are many editors available in the market. Editors with artificial intelligence. Let's say if you are not good in coding, these editors help you a lot while writing code. If you make any mistake, they give you suggestions, right? If there are, let's say, 100 methods inside this class, you need not to learn all the methods. If you say just calc dot, it will show you list of all the methods inside the class, and you can just pick the method from there, and that particular method functionality, what is written inside that, and you can execute it accordingly, right? So some editors are paid, some are open source, like NetBeans is there, IntelliJ is there, WebStorm is there, Eclipse is there. Eclipse is one of the most popular editor, most widely used, and it's completely open source as well. So we will be working on Eclipse. This is one of the prerequisites to get started with Java, and one of the prerequisites to get started with Selenium as well. So we'll be downloading Eclipse IDE. IDE as an integrated development environment, not Selenium IDE, right? That is a different thing. So this Eclipse IDE is a platform where we will be creating a number of classes, we'll be including a lot of libraries, writing code, right? So a prerequisite to get started with Eclipse is that you need to have Java installed on your machine. Java as in JDK, Java Development Kit. And we'll be installing the latest version, that is 1.8, because your latest Selenium will gonna support 1.8 and above, right? So if you have ever installed Java, if you have Java like Java 6 or 7 on your machine, I would recommend you go to the control panel and delete all the current version of Java on your machine and install just the JDK 1.8. So where you're going to install it, we'll be going to Google and we'll say download JDK 1.8. Right, so Java is by Oracle now. We're going to go to the very first link. And over here, we're going to see different version of Java available for Linux, for Mac, for Solaris, for Windows. I'm on a Windows 64-bit machine. Right, I first need to accept the license, and then I'll be installing the 64-bit one, the exe file. If you're on 32-bit Windows, you need to install this x86, right? I'm gonna check which version of JDK I have. So you can go to control panel, or you can just go to command prompt and try typing Java-version. It will show you the current version of Java on your machine, like mine is 1.8. So if you get 1.7 or 1.6, just go to control panel and remove all Java and then install it again. Right? So once you download this Java comes as a exe file. Installing Java is very simple, like you're installing a normal software. You just need to double click on the exe file and Java gets installed. That's it. Once the Java is installed, it will going to generate some folders inside your C drive program files. You're going to find a folder of Java over here. Inside this, you're going to find two folders. One is JDK and the other one is JRE. JDK stands for Java Development Kit. JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment. Right. So some people, when they type download Java directly on Google, so when you install Java through a Java installer, most of the time it's been seen that it installs only the Java runtime environment, right? Because this development kit is mostly required when you are developing something, when you will be using the programming part. In order to run any Java program, you just need to have the Java runtime environment on the machine, right? So you need not to type download Java, directly type download JDK. Once you install JDK, JRE comes along with it, right? So the very first thing, okay, I have some questions. I have installed 1.8. Is that still the correct? Yes, 1.8 is the correct version, right? So once we get these things, there are some configuration that we need to do in order to support Java globally on our machine. Because when we are working on Selenium, we will be integrating n number of other components with Selenium. Like if I talk about Selenium, there are 4 major components in Selenium that we may heard about. Like one of the things called as Selenium IDE, RC, WebDriver, and Grid. These are the 4 major components of Selenium. And these are used only 25% in your project. In your entire automation, Selenium is used only 25%. Then what else is used in Selenium in your automation project? We talk about all these things. TestNG, it has nothing to do with Selenium. This is a separate library. These reports, these have nothing to do with Selenium. These are not designed in Selenium, not designed for Selenium, right? These build tools, most of the developers, they use these build tools. So it doesn't mean that they are using Selenium as well. But these are some of the things which require to build your project. So even when we are working on Selenium, we'll be writing some code. We need to build our code as well. So these are the tools that we will be integrating with Selenium. These continuous integration, these framework are not a utility or not a predefined tool or an API. These are some of the design pattern, the approaches that we will be applying to our project to make it like a very optimized project so that the code will not be repeatable, right? Will be reusing a lot of components. That is what the page object model, it is one of the design pattern, right? So these are the things that will be integrated with Selenium, but they are not the part of Selenium. But when you work on Jenkins, when you work on Maven and other things, the prerequisite for all these things is that you need to have Java globally configured on your machine so that any program can easily access Java. So in order to globally configure Java, we set up some environment variables. Now these environment variables can be set by going to your computer, right clicking on it, and then going to properties. From here, you can come to know your operating system is 64-bit or 32-bit. It's a Windows 10 64-bit machine. And then you need to click on Advanced System Settings. Click on this and then click on Environment Variables. So here you're going to see system properties. The very first thing you need to do is create a new variable and name it as Java underscore home. And paste the path of the JDK folder. So just paste the path of your JDK folder and paste it in the variable value. Just copy it and paste it. That's it. Click on OK, and you're going to see Java home over here like this. So this is a system variable that we have created. After this, we need to search for a global variable called as a path variable and just open it. You're going to find so many things which are already configured over here. So if you find all these things already configured over here, you should not be editing any of the pre-configured thing, or you should not be deleting them or doing any modification with them. Because if you change any of these things, you may hamper existing running program, or you may corrupt your Windows as well. So the only thing that you need to do is go to end, click on new, and type percentage Java underscore home percentage. That's it. See, once you are done with this, you'll get this thing will gonna get the path of the Java home variable that we have created, and that contains the location of your JDK folder. Your Java is inside the bin folder. If you go to the bin folder, you'll find Java over here. You actually need to give this path in your global variable. And this is the standard how you do it. Java home / bin. So this will take you to the bin folder. Once you are done with this, click on OK. I've already done it, so I'll not be redoing it. I'll just delete it. So this is how I've created this variable. Click on OK, click on OK, click on OK, and Java will be successfully configured. Once you are done with this, go to command prompt and type java-version. It should show you the current version of Java on your machine. If you get this message, it means Java is successfully configured. You can access Java from any location. Even if you go to C drive and type java-version from any drive, anywhere from your machine, you should be able to access Java. Right, so this is the very first prerequisite. Once you're done with this, the next step is to download Eclipse. So Eclipse, again, we'll go to Google and we'll say download Eclipse. So we'll go to this link, Eclipse.org downloads. We'll click on this. Okay, what happened? Let me see. Let me refresh it. Yes, but it is still you need to set up the environment variable because many other tools may be using the Java, so they need the global location of Java. Let me see this Eclipse website why it's not working in my end. Just give me a moment, guys. There seems to be some slowness with the website. Just the download page is taking some time. Rest all pages are working fine. Okay, that's fine. If you have gone up till this page, like Eclipse download packages, you can see various versions of Eclipse. So like Galileo is there, Helios is there, Indigo, Juno, Kepler, Mars, and the latest one is Neon. I would recommend that if you see these are the packages of Eclipse. Eclipse is just an editor. You can write C, C++ code, Android code, PHP code, Ruby, Python. All these languages can be used with Eclipse. But we'll be working on Eclipse with a very basic Java part. So we'll be downloading the very first component that is Eclipse IDE for Java EE developer. And based on your operating system, you need to download it. If you are on a Windows 32-bit machine, you need to download this. 64-bit, you need to download this. But I would recommend that download the latest version of Eclipse itself, that is Eclipse Neon. Anything above Mars should be good, right? If you are holding any previous version like Luna or Kepler, then there are some plugins that you need to manually install once we start with Maven or once we start with other things. So these plugin comes inbuilt in the latest version of Eclipse. So that is the reason I recommend to download the latest Neon from this link. Click on 64-bit and it will download Eclipse, which is somewhere around 301 MB. Right, so it will gonna take few minutes to download Eclipse based on your internet speed. Once Eclipse is downloaded, you're gonna find Eclipse over here. I've already downloaded it. So this is how you will see Eclipse, a folder. You'll get a zip file once you extract it. You'll see a folder Eclipse over here. Once you open it, all these files you're going to see in Eclipse. There's nothing installable in Eclipse. You just need to double click on this application. We're going to launch Eclipse. See, I'm having Eclipse Mars 2. So you should be downloading the latest one, right? The very first screen it will going to show you is a workspace launcher. Now, what is a workspace launcher? Any code that we're going to write in our project, anything that we're going to do in our project will be stored at some location. That is what we refer to a workspace over here. So I generally give the workspace name with a batch name. I'll name this batch as batch, let's say 4th March 2017 online. Right. This is how I generally name a batch. So I'll click on finish and you're going to see that at this location, a folder will be generated. If I go to this location, you're going to see a folder with your batch name, that is batch 4th. Just give me a moment. Let me do date modified. So this is batch 4th March. Right. Any piece of code that you're going to write will get stored at this location. Next time, if you want to refer to the same project, just give this workspace and it will load your project. Ankur, if you have Eclipse Mars, that's fine. Juno, I mean, basic Java will be supported, but latest version is recommended. At least March and above is recommended, right? Don't use very old versions of Eclipse. You'll not gonna see the latest plugins which are available in the latest versions, right? Okay. So, okay. Also, in case if you miss to see any step, any configuration that I've done so far, then I'm already recording this video, right? So you need not to worry. Don't try to do the configuration right now, right? Just try to like watch this session at the moment. Just try to understand the concept. Don't try to practice it along with the session, right? I will be sharing this video to you as soon as it get processed. I will be uploading it to your course, and then you can go through the entire video. You can do rewind and forward, and then you can try configuring whatever that been explained, right? So once Eclipse is launched, it will show you a welcome screen. Just close this welcome screen, and this is your Eclipse. So here you'll be seeing something called as Project Explorer. Here you'll be maintaining your project hierarchy. Here you will be writing some code, right? So this area is for writing some code. Here you'll be maintaining project hierarchy, and here you'll get the output of that code, right? And these things are not required for the timing, so I'll just close them. Right. So we are trying to understand what an API is at the moment, right? In order to understand what Selenium is, because Selenium is an API, we are trying to work as a developer, and we are creating a calculator project, right? So what I'll do, I'll right click on the project explorer, I'll go to new, I'll click on project, and I'll select a Java project from here. Because I'm working as a Java developer, so I'll be creating a Java project. I'll click on next, and I'll give some project name. It could be any name. I'll name it as CalC project, right? And I'll click on finish. Click on yes. So a new calculator project is created over here. If you open this project, you'll find a SRC, that is a source folder, where you'll be creating classes, you'll be writing code, right? You'll be adding n number of things to your project. So all these things will be added inside your source folder. Something you'll see Java runtime system libraries. If you open this, there are some libraries that are added to your project. These are internal Java libraries, right? These contains your internal Java classes. As in, if you have ever worked on C, C++, if you remember that before you write any program, you include some header libraries, like include conio.h, studio.h, and so on, right? Similarly, if we work in Java, like if in previous time when we used to write Java code in Notepad, we need to import all the libraries manually by saying import java.util.star, java.math.random, and n number of other libraries. We have to handle those things manually. But Eclipse has changed all this configuration a lot, so all these things are automatically handled. We need not to worry about it. Right. So when you create a Java project, all the Java libraries are by default added to your project. So if you use any of the Java internal classes, you need not to worry about how to import them and how to use them. Right. So what you need to do, you just need to right click on the source folder and say new and create a new class and give a class name over here. Class name will always going to start with a capital letter. So let's say I'm creating a calculator class. I'll say calculator with a capital C. And then I'm going to check something called as public static void main. And I'll click on finish. And you're going to see a sample code over here. These are some of the comments. I'm going to remove it. And then I'm going to increase the font size by going to Windows, Preferences, Journal, Appearance, Colors, Font, Basic, and then the text font. And I'll click on Edit and click on OK. Yeah. All right, guys, just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. on, guys. So they're very late in asking the access. Just kidding. All right. So once we are done with this, like there's something that you can see highlighted in reddish colors, some in black color. All these reddish colors are some predefined keywords in core Java, like public, private, protected. These are access modifiers, and we have static, non-static members. Then we have return types as void, string, int, right? This is a function, a method, which is inside this class, right? So a function has got a starting block, starting curly braces and ending curly braces, right? You will write the code within inside this function. This is a class starting and end block. This class can contain a number of functions, right? So all these things are taught in the basic Java tutorials itself. You can just try going through these tutorials. You need not to worry about what public is, what class is, what static is for the time being, right? Because all these things are already explained in the Java tutorials. For the time being, what we need to do is, let's say, if I talk about how to print in C. So how to print in C? C language. How do we print in C language? What is that we write to print in C language? So this is a question. C out. Printf. Right. So this is how we write printf, and we do printing in C. In C++, how we print in C++? Exactly, C out. How about core Java? How we print in core Java? Yes, the very first program of any programming language is to print something, and this is how we print in core Java. We write system out println, and then within double quotes we write hello world, the very first program. And this is the run button. If I click on this, this will gonna print hello world. Right. So there is a shortcut to print this thing. You'll say SYSO control spacebar enter. We're gonna print this system out println. So this is like SYSO plus control plus spacebar. And at times you need to press the enter as well. So SYSO control space enter. We're gonna print this thing. Right, this is a shortcut. Now we're not here to print hello world at the moment, so I'm just gonna comment it. If you want to comment the entire block, say control shift and the backspace backslash, we're gonna comment the entire thing. Right, there are many shortcuts of Eclipse which are very beneficial when you are writing code, right? So we'll be talking about these things as well. But right now we are implementing a calculator, and we have seen there are a number of functions, a number of methods available in a calculator. So I'll be designing those methods. I'll create a very first method, that is add. And we're gonna write some code which we're gonna add some numbers. For the time being, I'm gonna print some statement over here. I'll write printing of adding some numbers. It means if you call this addition method, it will gonna print adding some numbers. Similarly, I'm gonna copy this and create other methods like this. So name it as subtract. A method name always starts from a small letter. Multiply, divide, and so on. Right, there's a camel casing which is followed everywhere, right? Like the class name, it starts from a capital letter. A method name, it starts from a small letter. If you want to concatenate anything, let's say the method name is the dark night, the dark night. So if I talk about this thing, we are not able to understand what exactly this thing is, right? If I make it more readable, I'll make this as capital D and this as a capital N. right? So now these are three different birds, but it is more readable now. But this is a method, so it starts from a small letter and then the camel casing goes. If this thing is there in the class name goes like this. The class name starts from a capital letter and then the camel casing. So whenever you see any internal class or any class in any external library, you will find the same camel casing used in classes and methods. This is how it is being used, right? So we have created all the methods with a small letter, and this should subtract some number, this should multiply some number, and this should divide some numbers. No, this will not gonna give you any error if you write it. If you write everything in small letter like the dark night, everything in small letter, it will not gonna throw any error. But this is a standard how it is being followed in the industry. The coding best coding practices, right? You should follow the camel casing when creating methods and creating classes, so that it should be more readable. And if anyone else is reading your code, he should be able to understand, okay, this thing is a method, okay, this thing is a class. So similarly, if you're reading someone else's code, if they have already followed the camel casing, you should be able to understand whether this is a method or this is a class, right? All right. So all these methods are created. Now I want to call this addition method. Let us test whether this addition is working fine or not. So we know how to call a method from a class. We have just seen in a notepad. We've already written that thing by saying calculator calc equal to new calculator. So we just copy it from here, and I go to the main method and paste it over here. See, I'm not getting any error. It means this is a correct statement. Error in the sense, if I write calculators over here, see, I'll get something in red because Eclipse is not able to understand what calculators is. There is nothing called as calculators. So if you mouse over onto this calculators, Eclipse is going to provide you suggestions. It says calculators cannot be resolved to a type. Create a class calculators or change it to calculator. If you click on this will be changed to calculator. So this is the correct statement. This is how we create an object of a class. Now, if you want to call methods, you'll just say calc dot, and you'll see list of all the methods that you have created inside this class. But we have not created all these methods. How come we are seeing so many methods? See, the methods that you have created is addition method, division method, multiplication method, and the subtraction method. This is over here. And all these methods has got a calculator along with it, right? There are other methods which has got object along with it. Now, what is object? Although we need not to worry what object is for the time being. We are more focused on the calculator, but we should be knowing why we are seeing all these methods over here. We should see only 4 methods that we have created. Okay, object is the inbuilt method are also shown. What are inbuilt methods? So object is basically a parent class of any class in Java. Right? There's something called as inheritance in Java. Inheritance means a child or a parent relationship. Class calculator, see, with every method you are going to see the class name, which tells that which method belongs to which class. This addition belongs to calculator class. You'll see object as well along with the calculator class because object is a parent of a calculator class. Any class in Java, we call object as the mother of all classes as well in Java. So any class, be it a class that you have created, be it a class that is already present inside the Java library, any class in Java, it extends the object class. So object is a parent of all classes in Java. So whatever method, object is an internal class. So whatever methods that are written inside the object class, will be seen with any class that you're going to create an object and you're going to call method from that object. So you're going to see calculator methods along with all the classes, because child inherits the property of a parent. So whatever things are there in a parent, you should be able to see in the child classes as well. But right now we need not to focus on object, right? We should be focusing on the 4 methods that we have created. So the very first method I've called is calc.add. I'll save this, run this. It is going to show you adding some numbers. Similarly, you can call another method calc.divide, calc.multiply, calc.subtract, and so on. And if you run this, it will going to execute everything. Right? Now, there is one more method which has the same name as of the class name. What we call it as? What do you call a method which has the same name as of the class name? What is this thing called? Constructor. Okay. I've got so many answers. Constructor. Exactly. What is a constructor? So a constructor is like a method only. It is having a same name as of the class name. And this is the very first thing that is called as soon as you create an object of a class. The very first thing that will be called is a constructor. So as I'm saying, it's look like a method only. So even I can write some code inside this constructor. So I can say calling constructor. Now let's just call this thing as well. How to call constructor? Shall I write calculator dot calculator? See, I'm not gonna get it. This is not how a constructor is called. Then how to call a constructor? How to call a constructor? It is automatically called. As soon as you create an object of a class, the very first thing is called is calculator. Yes, by default, it will be called as soon as you create an object. And where we are creating object, we are creating an object in this statement. So even if you don't call any method from a class, if you just execute this statement, if you just click on run, the very first thing will be called is constructor, right? Now I said when you create an object, then this constructor is called. So I was asking about initially what is an object inside this statement. Some people say that calc is an object. Some people say new calculator is an object, right? Some people say calculator is an object. Now what is an object? Let's assume this calc is an object. I'll remove this statement. I'll remove this much part. So this is still a valid statement. If I run this, will the constructor be called or not? No, it will not be called. Yes, it will be called. How about others? Guys, I want everyone should participate. No matter if you know the answer or not, just give it a try. Don't worry about it if it is right or wrong. No, it will not be called. Okay, many people say that it won't be called. So let's run it and see. See, nothing called. It means this is not an object, right? Because had this been object, the constructor would have been called. Now, what I'll do, I'll just remove this part. And now tell me if I run this, will the constructor be called or not? Okay, yes, yes, no, yes. Okay, so many people say yes, let's run this. Yes, the constructor will be called. So it means that an object is always created whenever we say new calculator. Then what is a need of this thing? Why we need this thing? If the object is created by saying this thing, if we can create an object directly, then what is a need of calculator calc over here? Why we need it? To call the methods? Okay. So it means if we don't have calculator calc, we cannot call any method from a class. Is it true? Can we call a method without calculator calc? Okay, probably no. Okay, Noor says yes, we can. Noor, how to call a method without having calculator calc? Exactly. So we're gonna say new calculator dot add, and we can still call a method. See, adding some numbers. How about if I want to call subtraction? How to do that? Again, I need to say new calculator dot subtract, new calculator dot divide, new calculator dot multiply. So in order to call 4 methods from this class, the constructor is called 4 times. It means 4 objects are created. 4 objects are created into a memory. That is what I don't want. I want only one object should be created, and all the methods should be referred from the same object itself. So what I have done, I've removed the entire thing, right? And I've stored the address of this object wherever this object is being generated in a memory. So I've stored the address into a variable. Variable could be anything. It could be ABCD, it could be XYZ. We generally give it a meaningful name, so we write CALC. And everything should have some type. In the sense, let's say I'm storing a value 100 into a variable, right? Value. What will be the type of this variable? It will be int, right? Because this is a numeric value. So whatever the value is, the type will be according to that value. So if it is a numeric value, the type should be int. What if I write it in double quotes or I make it hello? Will I be able to store it in int or boolean or float? No, it will always be of a string type. So whatever the value is, the data type, the type will be according to that value only, right? So if I talk about this string, what is string in Java? What is string? It's a class, it's a data type, right? Yes, it's a data type and it's a class as well. So if it is a class, let's ask from string as itself. So if I mouse over onto string, it himself shows that the string class, the string class. So this string is a class inside java.lang library. This is a string class. This is an internal class of Java. So if string is a class, then what is value? A reference variable, exactly. So it's a variable, right? This is a variable that holds this string object, right? The value of string. So what we're going to do, we'll say reference variable dot, and it will show us the list of all the methods inside the string class. See, these are all internal methods of string class. Every method you'll see string written, the string class, but you'll see object as well over here. See, object, object. Because object is mother of all classes, be it internal, external, you will see all the classes will show object as well along with it, right? So this is how, when we cannot store this value into an int, when we cannot store a numeric value into a string, similarly, when we are talking about storing this value into a variable, the type will not be string, the type will not be int, it will always be of the same class type. That is the reason we say calculator calc equal to new calculator. And when we call method using the same variable, reference variable, and calc.divide, calc.multiply, calc.subtract, and if we run this, only one object is created and all the methods are referred from the same object. So this is a very basic programming concept. Right. Now let's say I've designed the entire library And let's assume I've written some 400-500 lines of code inside this addition method with a very complex logic. Now I want that. I want to like anyone in the world, if he want to add something, then he should not write the entire stuff again. Rather, he can use my addition method that I've already created, and he can perform the addition. So what I have done, I want to launch my project as an open source project, free of cost. Anyone can access it. Anyone can add something, subtract something, divide something without rewriting the entire utility that I've created. So what I've done, I have gone to my project, I've right clicked on it, gone to export, gone to Java, selected a jar file, and clicked on next. And given some name of this project. I've given a name as calculator version 1.0.jar. So this is the version I've given to my project. And I've stored it somewhere on my desktop as a jar file. I'll click on finish. And if I go to my desktop, you're going to see a jar file generated over here. Just a moment. With the name calculator version. Yeah, this is the one. Now it's nothing like if I double click on this jar file, it will going to install calculator on my machine. It will not going to do any installation on my machine. This calculator jar file will only going to tell me what all classes are there inside this project, what all methods written inside this, what all functionality it contains. But if a developer has not shared the code written inside the method, will not be able to see the code. But still, we will be able to access the addition method. We should be able to implement the addition functionality by calling the method from this class. Only the coding part will not be able to see. But if like generally in open source project, developers give away the code as well, because open source means anyone can contribute to the project, right? So if you want to add your own functionality, you want to extend it to the same library, you can do that. That is how open source community works. If they like it, they're going to include it in this project. So let's say after developing this jar file, launching the very first version of calculator, I have uploaded this to my website, and now whosoever wants to add something, subtract something, can download this jar file and use it in use the library in their own Java project and extend the functionality. Now let's say I've left this organization. I'm going to close this project, and I'll join. I've joined another organization as a Java developer again. That's HSBC Bank. I've joined HSBC Bank. Right, again as a Java developer. If I talk about this bank, they already have a banking domain which is developed in Java. So let's say I create a class as banking. And this class has got a main method, so I'll add a main method over here, right? Now, they already have a project in place. I was hired in between of the project. So there were some of the methods that were already created, like public void profit and a method called public void loss. So these methods were already there when I was hired. I was hired in between of the project. They asked me to implement a functionality that could add salaries for a number of employees. So something related to addition method that I have to create. Now, if I talk about this addition method, let's assume this method is similar to what I have created in my previous project, in my previous organization. The entire coding part, the logic, everything is similar. So there are two ways to design it. Either I should start writing the entire code again, but the code, the logic was very complex. It may take me another day to finish the addition method. Or the other way is the functionality is already developed. Why should I rewrite it? So I've gone to that company's website. I've downloaded that jar file. Then I've gone to my project, right-clicked on my project, gone to build path, gone to add external archives, And I've added that jar file, that is calculator version 1.0, as a reference library to my project. Now, if you open this jar file, you're going to see a class with a name calculator and all the methods that were created implemented inside that class. But we are not able to see the code or addition method. But still, I can call the addition method. How? I'm just going to go inside my class. Anywhere over here, I can create an object of calculator, calc equal to new calculator, like this. And see, Eclipse is able to understand what calculator is. It's not throwing any error. Error means with the help of this jar file. If I remove this jar file from the project, Eclipse will not able to understand what this calculator is. If I mouse over, Eclipse will say that create a class calculator. But why should I create it? This is already there in a previous project, in someone else's project. So if I want to refer that project over here, I just add the jar file of that project. And now I can go inside this method and let's change the method name to add salary. So I can say calc.add. And I've implemented the entire functionality without rewriting the code. Now, if you want to call this add salary method, you'll create an object of banking b equal to new banking and say b dot add salary. If you save this, run this, the entire functionality will be executed without rewriting the entire code. Right? So if we talk about this jar file, this is what an API is. This is an API to HSBC Bank project. And if you're talking about Selenium, Selenium is one of the same thing. Selenium is available in a form of a single jar file or multiple jar files, which you can add to your project and automate any website that you want. So it's not a tool, it's a collection of classes. It's a collection of methods, interfaces. It's a complete project. If we are working in Java, it is available in the form of a jar file. If you work in C#, it is available in a form of a DLL file. For Ruby, gems are available. For Python, PHP, different bindings are available. In almost every major language, Selenium project is being developed. Now, in the same project, we can use Selenium. We just need to right-click over here, go to Build Path, add external archives, and let's say I have downloaded Selenium jars over here inside jars. And let me add one of this jar file. Now, instead of this calling this banking one, I can go over here and call one of the class from Selenium, that is Firefox driver equal to new Firefox driver. So when you need to work on a Firefox browser, this is a class that is implemented inside that project. Just this line of statement, just this, if I write and if I run this, let's see what will happen. Just by creating an object of Firefox driver class, you're going to see a browser Firefox will going to launch. Just by creating an object of this class. So where have they written a code for launching browser? So where the code has written, where the developer of Selenium has written a code of launching a browser. Jar file, that's true. Where inside that jar file? Firefox driver class. Again, yes, that's true. But where inside the Firefox driver class? Inside the package, where? Where the code is written which is launching the browser? In the constructor, exactly. Right? Because as soon as you create an object of the class, the very first thing is called is a constructor. So even if I don't write this statement, if I just write this, and if I run this, the very first thing that will be called is a constructor, and it will going to launch a browser like this. right? So the code is written inside constructor, and we need not to worry about what code is written. We just know that if I create an object of Firefox driver, the very first thing will be called is the browser. If I want to navigate to a website, I'll say driver.get. It asks me for a URL in string format. I'll give the URL as http www.waytoautomation.com, and I'll save this. I'll run this. It will again launch the browser and will navigate to the website. And see, navigating to the website. So I'm not sure about what they have written inside the get method. Just give me a moment. Let me close it. Okay, I've closed it, so it throws no such window. It was not completely loaded. That's fine. So I'm not sure about what they have written inside the get method, what they have written inside the constructor of Firefox, and really I'm not worried about it, because I know that get method will gonna navigate to a website. Whatever code that they have written, I'm not a developer, so I'm not concerned about the code they have written. I just know how to call a method from a class. I just know that how a constructor is being called and a browser is being launched. Only that much programming I should be knowing. And how to manipulate with basic if, else loops, that is what that is required to work on. We need not to install the jar, we need to import the jar. So we have imported this single jar file. Now, if I show you this jar file, if I open this, you're going to find a huge library over here. These are all packages. If you open any of these packages, you'll find hundreds of classes inside these packages. This library is very huge. If you open these classes, you'll find hundreds of methods over here. Right? It's a huge library. But we don't read this library from here. There is a Java document specific to it. I'll show you how you're going to read that Java document as well. But this is how we work on a Selenium project. Right? So what are the prerequisites? There's only, you need Java, JDK, you need Eclipse, and then you need the Selenium jar file. That's it. That is all that you need to work on Selenium. And then you need a browser that is obvious. So you're working on Firefox, so you'll be needing Firefox. How do we install Selenium jar? Okay, Selenium, the main website of Selenium is seleniumhq.org. That is Selenium headquarters. The very first statement, what is Selenium? Selenium automates browser, that's it. Selenium is only for web-based testing. Anything and everything available on a web can be easily automated using Selenium, but no desktop-based applications. It's only for web-based, right? Sorry. And in order to get the Selenium jar, you need to go to download. You'll be downloading Selenium from here. So this is one of the way you can download it. There are other ways as well that I'll be telling you in the upcoming sessions. But for the time being, don't download the latest version of Selenium. This is because there are many additional configuration that you need to do in order to work on the latest version of Selenium. For the time being, whatever that we have studied, just go to the previous release. Just follow the steps that I'm showing at the moment. Sorry. Go to previous releases and go to the last version of 2 release, Selenium 2, that is WebDriver. Click on this and download this jar file, Selenium Server Standalone 2.53.1. When you are working on this jar file, the Firefox version should be 47.0.1, not above this. Otherwise, it will not gonna work. Selenium jar should be 2.53.1. Later on in the next session, I'm gonna show you how to work on the latest one, the 3.1, that is 3.2.0. Right, but for the timing, just try to set up this environment. JDK 1.8, Eclipse, Selenium jar 2.531, and Firefox this. And see whatever thing that we, what about other browsers? We'll be working on all browsers. Don't worry about it. So we have we'll be doing detailed discussion on Chrome, on IE, right? I'll show you how we're gonna execute the entire code on these browsers as well. We'll be working on these things in our next session. For the timing, just configure these things and see if the entire configuration works fine. Because the initial challenge I've seen people what they face, sometimes the browser is not launching, sometimes browser is launching, but it is not navigating to the website, right? Some people, they download different versions of jar file, different version of Firefox. So just to be sure that we all are on the same plate, so you should be downloading Firefox 47.0.1 and Selenium charges JDK 1.8 and Eclipse. Try if you can download the latest one, that is Neon. So just have the setup ready before we meet for the next session, and then we'll be working on different browsers and the latest version of Selenium as well. Right? So that is all about our today's session. We're gonna do up till this much for today. So I hope you have enjoyed our today's session. Just try doing these configuration and just try adding me on Skype. If you have any questions, any queries, just ping me on Skype. And we're gonna meet for our next session, like next Saturday itself at the same time. And you can follow the same meeting invite that I've sent it in the last mail. We'll be meeting up on the same link, so you can join on the same link next Saturday at the same time. Right? So if you have any questions, any doubts before we are good to wind up the session, so you can discuss it right now. Anyone, any doubts or question? You can unmute yourself and you can discuss it right now, or else we are good to wind up. Okay, I can see someone's raising the hand. Just let me see. Okay, yeah, Pariti, you have some doubts? You want to type in a chat box, you can do that, or you can unmute yourself. Can you please give some details, example on JRE? No, what sort of example are you looking for JRE? JRE is just a Java runtime environment. Anything that there are many Java programs that are supported on different machines. JRE is just to run those Java projects. That's it. What do we mean by automating a website? Automating a website means doing end-to-end testing on automating the manual test cases for a website. So we generally write manual test cases, right? In order to automate them, we use Selenium or other tools. So that is what automating a website means. End-to-end testing. So once we write a script, if we want to run it again, it will perform the entire testing. We need not to do it manually. That is what automation means. Okay, how can the version of Firefox while downloading? RC, I didn't get your question clearly.
How do we know this is the version 47.0.1 when we try to download a
Okay,
Firefox?
just open up Firefox, say Alt F, and go to Help about Firefox. It will tell you the current version of Firefox, 47.0.2. 0.1 or 0.2, but it should not be above 47. All right. So the other benefit, yeah.
So if you're on the later version, just have to again uninstall and then just downgrade it to 47.01.
Yes, or else you should be using latest Selenium, that is 3.2, but it has got some issues at the moment. There are a few things which will not going to work on Firefox with the latest version. So that is the reason I'm not recommending you to use latest 3.2. All right, because they very recently migrated it to 3.2. It was launched like 2 days back itself on 2nd March.
Um, Raman, sorry, we configured the environmental variable stuff. Can you just refresh this again as to why we have to configure that environmental variables again, please? Just to
Okay. See, later on, when we start working on projects, we will be using some build tools like Maven. We'll be using Jenkins. So if you don't have Java configured on your machine, these things will not gonna work because these things looks for the global location of Java on your machine. And this is how we configure Java and other programs globally, so that any program that may need access of these programs can easily access it using the environment variables.
when you actually join a company and then you go in the middle of a project, and
Uh-huh.
this is all kind of they make sure that before you kickstart, it's all kind of configured for you, or they expect you to kind of configure everything yourself.
See, when you're starting in an automation project, when they assign you a machine, then you need to do the entire installation on your own. The framework is one of the part you may get, it is already there, but these variables installing Java might be there on the machine. By default, it comes with most of the latest machines as well. But like environment variables and all these things, you have to set it up on your own.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So these are all one-time setup. If you have done it once, you'll not be doing it in your entire life if you don't change the machine or if you don't format the system. So these are just one-time setup.
I take it, all these methods and objects and constructors that we talked about. Obviously, I had my concerns about this programming language. So this is all obviously
Mhm.
detailed on your coding
Core Java language.
core Java basics. It's all obviously
Yes.
up and ready available. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
are these? I mean, is that easier? Obviously, if you got any documentation, or is it just better off with the videos?
No, just follow the videos. You should be able to understand it.
Right, right. Thank you.
All right.
Quick question. So I just
Mhm.
tried to import the Selenium jar, like how you have asked us to do. So I've downloaded even Firefox. So my question is, do the class name has to be same like Firefox driver when we want to just invoke the Firefox UI?
Yes, I mean, if you don't, I mean, Firefox driver is a class that is being developed by the Selenium developers itself. So that is what
Okay.
you should be calling when you want to launch a Firefox browser or want to perform testing on it. You cannot change you cannot make it in capital or small letters on your own. It has to be in a same like case sensitive language that we have used the class name as Firefox and then driver. This has to be the same thing. They are also following the camel casing. It's a class name. It starts from a capital letter. Then, if anything else is added or integrated, this has to be a capital. This is how they have
Okay.
created it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Paridhi, for the timing, I would recommend you to use 2531 if you want to work on Firefox. If you're working on Chrome or other browsers, then you can use the latest one. If you've already started working on Selenium, right? Because the latest version of Selenium, there are some challenges people are facing in Firefox browser using the latest version. So overall, the methods and classes remains the same in 2.531. 2.531 is one of the most stable version of WebDriver. Same thing is there in 3.2 as well, but there are some issues being faced in Firefox browser specifically where we use some of the methods to close the browser. It is not working on latest 3.2, whereas it is working on 2. I'll going to show you these challenges practically in our next session. I'll show you when we start using 3.2. I'll be using 3.2 as well in front of you. I'm going to show you a lot of challenges, what exactly we are facing. So yeah, this version of Firefox should work.
Um, Raman, Eclipse Neon version, that won't be any problem, right? With the being on Neon 2 point whatever.
Yes, yes. Eclipse Neon will work. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for your time and your patience. I hope you have enjoyed the session. We're gonna meet next week for our second session. So I'll be uploading the recording very soon. And where you need to access this recording from, you need to go to your course, courses.way2automation.com, and here you may see this course enrolled. That is this combo offer one. Just click on this, and here you're going to find this is from the previous batch. Now I'll be adding your batch over here, and we'll be adding day one. Till that time, if you want to go through day one of the previous batch, you can go through, or else just wait for a day or so, and your recording will be processed and uploaded over here itself. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot, and have a great weekend ahead. Yep. Thank you, guys.